Women are insane. Schopenhauer and emotional chaos. Arthur Schopenhauer never sugar-coated his words. He didn't soften his views to make them palatable or seek anyone's approval. He was direct, blunt, radical. To him, a woman wasn't the angel of the house or the muse behind poetic inspiration. She was the embodiment of desire, of whim, of wild emotionality that defies all forms of logic. Harsh, perhaps, but he wasn't speaking from a place of hate. He was writing from a ruthless place of observation, from the truth that hides in the most uncomfortable corners of human nature. When Schopenhauer claimed that women were unpredictable, driven by fleeting emotions, he wasn't launching an attack. He was issuing a warning. And if you're watching this, it's likely because you felt it too. That strange, dizzying confusion when everything you thought you understood about a woman suddenly collapses without reason. Today she says she loves you. Tomorrow she acts like you don't exist. One day she cries over you. The next she's crying over someone else. She isn't crazy in a clinical sense. She just follows rules entirely foreign to yours. She doesn't respond to your logic because she doesn't live in your logic. She lives in a world of instinct, of now, of drama, of shifting desires. If you've ever had your heart broken for no clear reason, if you've ever fallen for what felt like love but turned out to be nothing more than emotional manipulation wearing a pretty mask, then this video is for you. Hit subscribe, like this video, and share your story in the comments because your experience might open someone else's eyes. That's why this channel exists, to say what no one else dares. Schopenhauer knew it. Women don't search for truth. They seek outcomes. Their strength doesn't lie in logic. It lies in their power to stir emotion, to conjure chaos and then float through it like it's nothing. While you're still trying to understand what happened, she's already shifted directions. Drama doesn't weaken her. It feeds her. She doesn't crave peace. She feeds off intensity. And if you don't know how to read those signs, you'll get swallowed by a storm that wears a smile. The danger in her madness isn't whether it's real, it's that it works. It's a functional form of madness, an emotional strategy crafted over centuries of evolution. She isn't mad by accident. She's been wired to survive through emotion, through surprise, through chaos. And you, still clinging to the idea that understanding her is just a matter of logic, are making the deadliest mistake. This is where Schopenhauer's thinking becomes more relevant than ever. He understood that romantic love was a trap, a delusion, that when a man falls in love, he's not thinking. He's plunging into a deep well where he loses his sense of ownership over himself. He gives up his freedom, his energy, his will. He becomes the emotional provider for someone who doesn't necessarily play by the same rules. Women are insane, not because they scream or overreact, but because their minds exist in a space where male logic fails. They are pure present, pure impulse, and in that territory the man who loves naively is already lost. Is this a curse? Number, it's a warning, a revelation. To stop suffering, you have to stop idealizing. To stop falling, you have to open your eyes. And to open your eyes, you must kill that stupid romanticism they sold you as a kid. Schopenhauer wasn't at war with women. He was at war with illusion. And that war was internal. How do you protect a man's will in a world built to drain it with desires? Because the real enemy isn't the woman. The real enemy is the fantasy that convinces you she will save you. While you're still dreaming of a princess, she's already striking deals with the dragon. And the cruelest irony, while you're drowning in agony trying to figure out why she changed, why she left, why her actions contradict her words, she doesn't suffer the same. Her pain is passionate, but fleeting. Yours is structural, because men love with structure, with ideals, with purpose. But when that purpose smashes into the wall of illogic, it all falls apart. A woman can cry today and forget tomorrow. A man can appear strong today and still carry that heartbreak inside him for years. And Schopenhauer saw that before anyone else. A man is doomed to lose if he believes he's playing the same game she is. The problem isn't that women change, it's that men believe they shouldn't. He seeks stability, consistency, emotional logic. But that's not what governs the female universe. There, everything flows. Everything is instinctive strategy, raw adaptation. And when he gets attached, she's already planning her next move. Not necessarily out of cruelty. It's just how her nature works. She doesn't need to think it through. She feels it and acts. And when a man asks why, there is no answer, because even she doesn't know. That's where the madness is born, in that abyss of misunderstanding. Not because she's irrational, but because you keep trying to rationalize her. That's your mistake. That's what Schopenhauer tried to scream at the world with his sharp pen. Stop expecting to be understood. Women weren't designed to understand you. They were designed to adapt, to attract, to survive. You're not on her pedestal. You're on her chessboard. While you give her your soul, she's moving her pieces. And when you lose, it's not betrayal, it's naivete. The most dangerous woman isn't the one who lies. It's the one who doesn't even realize she's playing. Because that one is the most effective. She thinks she loves, but she only desires. She thinks she's committed, but she's just reacting to stimuli. She believes she's with you, until something deep inside whispers she's not. And that can happen anywhere. At dinner, at the height of a trip, in the cradle of your newborn child. Because when emotion speaks, reason disappears. And you, raised to believe love conquers all, you're not ready. Romantic love is an artificial construct, a drug that makes us feel important while we give up everything. Money, time, dignity, freedom. Schopenhauer said it clearly. Love isn't a blessing. It's a biological deception to continue the species, a will to live dressed up in poetry. And once you grasp that, you'll never look into those forever eyes the same way again. So what now? Stop begging for answers. Stop hoping for emotional consistency, and start seeing the feminine world for what it truly is. Complex, chaotic, fascinating, and dangerous. This isn't about hate. It's about waking up. Because as long as you keep hoping love will give you answers, you'll keep falling into the same traps. Love, the way you've been taught to see it, was designed to enslave you. You want freedom? Kill that idea. Replace fantasy with clarity. Replace illusion with strategy. Schopenhauer never got married, not because he hated women, but because he loved his own will too much to hand it over unconditionally. He understood how desire drags you under, how passion blinds you, how affection is volatile. He knew even the most perfect woman could turn into a storm within seconds. Because madness doesn't always scream. Sometimes it strokes your cheek. And when that madness enters your life, it doesn't destroy you in an instant. It does it slowly, over time. It turns you into a confused man, a weak man, an emotionally dependent man. And that's the real hell, not losing her, but losing yourself while trying to figure her out. The most devastating part, that madness, that unpredictability you call toxicity, drama, intensity, is exactly what keeps you hooked. Because while you dream of a stable, balanced, coherent relationship, you, subconsciously shaped by years of unmet needs and emotional voids, are drawn to what hurts, to what you can't control, to what emotionally challenges you. Female madness doesn't just trap you, it obsesses you. Because deep down, you're not chasing love. You're chasing intensity. You're chasing validation. You're chasing the feeling of being chosen by something that can never truly be yours. And that's the darkest paradox of all. Man chases what breaks him, and rejects what brings him peace. He prefers the volcano to the valley, pain over indifference. And she, knowingly or not, becomes his drug. Schopenhauer saw it with absolute clarity. Desire is suffering, and in this system the woman is both the object of that suffering and the catalyst. Not because she's cruel, but because she is the most effective bait ever created to break a man's will. And that's why so many men, even after knowing all this, still return, again and again. They crawl back, they beg, forgiveness after forgiveness, gesture after gesture, emotionally enslaved by a story they were taught, where love means endurance, where if she leaves it's your fault, and where real men never walk away. Lies, lies engineered to break you, to guilt you, to neutralize you, and while you're reprogramming yourself to become the perfect emotional servant, she keeps dancing her dance of power, dressed in spontaneous romanticism. There's no emotional justice in this game, no logic, no clear rules, only subtle domination. And you, because you don't get it, live in a constant state of dissonance. Why does she turn her back on me when I give her everything? Why does she betray me when I've been loyal? Why does she respond coldly to love? Because the love you offer isn't what she's looking for, because you're not on the board for who you are. You're on the board for what you offer. You're not being loved. You're being used. And when that usefulness runs dry, so does her attention.
Schopenhauer didn't sugarcoat it. A man loves, a woman chooses, and she chooses with the cold calculation of emotional survival. He gives, she evaluates. She's not searching for poetry, she's assessing options. And her ability to shift direction without warning, that's not a flaw, it's a tool. Because if she stayed too long in a place where she wasn't getting what she needed, affection, attention, safety, admiration, validation, she would die emotionally. She can't afford that. You can. She can't. And once you understand this, something inside you shifts. Not necessarily to turn you cold or heartless, but to stop you from being stupid. You stop idealizing. You stop waiting for chaos to turn into order. Because emotional chaos is part of her nature, and you're not here to tame it. You're here to decide whether you enter the game or not. And if you do it with your eyes wide open. Because if you walk in blind, you will come out destroyed. And this is where many men lose it, where those still trapped in the fantasy react with rage, with denial, with that classic phrase, "Not all women are like that." But we're not talking about names or exceptions. We're talking about structures, patterns, psychological truths operating beneath the pretty speeches. It's easier to call it misogyny than to admit you were manipulated. Of course, it's more comforting to say, that's just stuff from the past, than to look at your relationship history and realize Schopenhauer's words have repeated themselves again and again, under different faces and different lips. And of course, most men don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want to keep believing that if they change, she'll value them. That if they become nicer, more attentive, more understanding, she'll finally change too. But it won't happen. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because you're playing by a rule book that was never meant to work on this field. You're offering logic in a world that only responds to emotional stimuli. You're trying to provide structure to someone who lives and breathes chaos. You're giving love in a place where conflict, tension, and drama are the real currency. You want proof? Just look at what excites her, what sparks attraction, what awakens desire in the female mind. It's not peace, it's unpredictability. It's not consistency, it's emotional volatility. It's not the man who begs, it's the one who stays unmoved. Alterations. Schopenhauer understood this. A woman isn't drawn to stability. She seeks intensity. The man who doesn't need her, who doesn't beg, who doesn't react, he's the one who leaves a mark. Because while you're tearing yourself apart trying to prove your love, there's another man who simply walks away, and he's the one she can't forget. Both. And it's not her fault. It's how she's emotionally programmed. And it's not your fault either. It's how you were culturally programmed. They taught you to worship, to protect, to sacrifice. They told you that to be a man is to be useful, to be romantic, to be noble. But they never told you that all of that could be turned against you. That what you see as devotion, she might see as desperation. That what you call love, she might interpret as weakness. Because deep down, what a woman truly admires is what she cannot control. Schopenhauer made it crystal clear. To love is not freedom. It's voluntary slavery. And the more you give yourself away, the less you're worth. Not because she's evil, but because that's how desire works. It devalues what's readily available. There's no mystery in a man who kneels, no power in a man who begs, no respect for the one who forgives everything. Contingency, trying so hard to be the good guy, have become the invisible man. That's why this video doesn't ask you to hate. It asks you to wake up, to open your eyes. Not to become a cynic, but to become a man who doesn't crawl. A man who doesn't love blindly. A man who doesn't lose his center over a pretty face or sweet words. A man who understands that a woman can be both mesmerizing and destructive, that she can lift you up and break you down, and that only one of you is going to have control. If you don't take it from the beginning, a woman is crazy, not as an insult, but as a symbolic diagnosis, a symbol of an emotional force with no boundaries, one you can't tame with flowers, with poetry, or with promises. Convenience. She's crazy because she represents the chaos necessary to move the world, the chaos that gives birth to life, but also the chaos that crushes egos, that weakens willpower, that leaves emotional wreckage in its wake, and you get to decide whether you lose yourself in that madness or observe it from above with a quiet smile that says, I don't play that game anymore. And if after all of this, you still believe that love can conquer all, that she's different, that this time will be different, then you haven't understood a thing, because this was never about her. It's about you, about your pathetic need to be chosen. Colonial hunger for someone to look at you and say, you're worth it. But that's not love. That's emptiness. And the woman, this chaotic force that Schopenhauer described without filters, she can smell that emptiness like a predator smells blood, and she will use it. Not because she's evil, but because she can. You want to be respected? Stop begging. You want to be chosen? Stop chasing. You want the pain to end? Stop idealizing. The kind of woman truly worth your time will never make you doubt yourself. She won't make you compete. She won't play games with your peace of mind. The motto was Mao, because female madness is not a condition. It's a filter. It separates the men who control themselves from the ones who kneel. Schopenhauer said it with clarity. The man who cannot control his desire is doomed to become the puppet of a woman. And you must choose. Do you want to keep being the jester in her emotional circus, or the man who steps off the stage, sets the script on fire, and writes his own story? Because in this world, there are only two types of men: the one who needs to be loved, and the one who is impossible to forget. Collaborations. Tell me, which one sounds more like a king? If this video made you think, made you uncomfortable, or opened your eyes, subscribe to Dark Psyphoria. Leave a like, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Here, we don't sell comfort. We offer raw truth. Dare to cross the threshold.
Thank you for watching. Walk your path with quiet strength.